don't remember who noticed the ladybug on our front steps first. I had lugged our bags up those same stairs a few days before when we returned from a trip to New York, but don't recall seeing her then. In New York, we had buried my son's grandfather, my husband's dad. His name was Ivan. So perhaps she was there when we returned, but distracted, I just didn't see her. I'm sure it was Benjamin, who was just shy of 3 then, who pointed her out. I was trying my hardest to settle us back into some kind of normal routine of our day, and soon the ladybug was a part of that day. On our way to the park or the store or to school, we'd stop and say hello, walk around her or gaze, perhaps count her spots. Often, Benjamin would plop down next to her as I was trying to hurry him in or out, carrying groceries or late for an appointment. At some point, though, I realized this ladybug was not just visiting us. She was not our friend, like a local dog who keeps returning looking for treats. This ladybug on our front steps with the peeling blue paint was dead, and had been for a while. The week before, my husband and I sat with our son in Central Park and explained to him that Grandpa's body had stopped working, that he had died. He watched his father cry and smiled and told him to be happy, not understanding completely, but knowing in his little 2-year-old way that his father was sad and he wanted to change that. And so, here was this ladybug, literally, drop dead at our door. This was a sign, a parenting lesson to apply. I was, after all, a little bit of an expert with death and childhood. My own father had died when I was 4, not much older than Benjamin, and my mother went on to write a children's book that's widely used in the grief community called Rachel and the Upside Down Heart. She and I had literally attended a children's grief conference 2 days before Ivan died. I was prepared for this. This is where I could guide my child. When my mother told me about my own father, as she explained it, she held me in her arms under a tree and told me that Daddy was broken and had gone to heaven, where he would be fixed. Later that night in the dark, as we attempted to sleep, I asked where Daddy was, and she told me again and again. I guess I kept asking, not really getting it. Now, as a mother, I am glad I didn't get it then. And though it must have been torturous for her, I'm sure somewhere in her she was glad I didn't understand. Just as I was glad Benjamin didn't really get it when we were in Central Park. Let him stay too a little longer. But for some reason, perhaps as my duty as Rachel from Rachel and the Upside Down Heart, I felt the need to explain it to him more with this bug. So we sat on our steps and I explained how she couldn't fly anymore because her body didn't work. At some point I had decided she was a she. Just like Grandpa, he would say, and I would nod and say yes, quietly, proud that we had found some common ground for a discussion. We left her there on the step and went about our lives. We always made sure to step aside or around or to just skip that step altogether. We didn't want to smush her. She was ours, our pet, our friend. Her color was still quite vibrant, red with little dots. She didn't look dead. One day, a dead bee appeared on our steps as well. Before Benjamin could even notice, I kicked it away, not wanting him to get stung. I was momentarily proud of my protective parenting, but by not wanting to smush our already dead ladybug, by stepping aside, by saying hello and incorporating her into our day, we were losing nothing. If this was my grand parenting lesson about loss and death that I equated with my son's loving grandfather, how could it not sting? And so that night, I announced to my husband that we needed to bury the ladybug. He humored me as I explained how we would have a little funeral for her, just like they did for Rudy Huxtable's fish on the Cosby Show. I was inappropriately giddy over my idea. Benjamin would see that when someone or something you love dies, it goes away. It does not linger on your front stoop for you to visit with. It does not maintain its beauty. It does not leave you. And so it was planned, and it felt right, and we went to bed. And just like that, the Santa Anas blew in. When we headed out the next morning, she was gone, lost to the wind, not buried in our garden as I had planned. Benjamin rushed down the stairs, ready to greet the day and all the play that was in store. And like Rudy, who didn't really care about her fish being flushed, he barely noticed. I had been so determined to find any and all teachable moments in this, to guide him in his grief, that I didn't anticipate my own. And I stood at the top of the stairs, devastated. And without thinking, until we moved over 2 years later, I would step aside on the step where we found her, each and every time as we went in and out of our home, hoping not to crush her. And then each and every time, I would remember she was gone.